The stars were dimming and nobody knew why. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn, watching the darkness creep across the sensor displays. 300 years had passed since humanity last traveled these depths of space. 300 years since Earth had closed its borders and disappeared from the galaxy's memory. The other species thought humans were gone, maybe even dead. They were wrong. "Commander, I'm picking up multiple distress signals," Jiwon called from the navigation station. Her young face showed concern as data flooded her screens. At least 7 systems, all in the Outer Rim territories. Hyunwoo moved closer, studying the signals. Each one told the same story. Colonies going silent, stars losing their light. Something was hunting in the darkness between worlds, and it was getting closer to the populated zones with each passing day. Dr. Minji adjusted her translator as she filtered through the alien languages. "These are Veltic signals," she said quietly. "They're calling for help from anyone who can hear them. They say something is eating their sons." The bridge fell silent. Eating suns. It sounded impossible, but the sensor data didn't lie. 3 stars in the past month had simply stopped burning, their light fading like candles in the wind. Entire solar systems left cold and dead? "How long until we reach the nearest signal?" Hyunwoo asked. 6 hours at current speed, Jiwon replied. "But Commander, we're not supposed to make contact." "Our orders were reconnaissance only." Hyunwoo knew she was right. Admiral Daehyun had been clear when the Eternal Dawn launched from Earth orbit. Watch and learn. Don't reveal themselves unless absolutely necessary. Humanity had spent 3 centuries rebuilding, advancing, preparing. This mission was supposed to be their eyes and ears, nothing more. But people were dying out there. "Take us in," Hyunwoo ordered. Full speed. The ship hummed as its advanced engines pushed them faster through the void. Technology that the galaxy had never seen, developed in humanity's long isolation. Dark matter drives that bent space itself, making their journey swift and silent. They emerged near a Velthic patrol station orbiting a gas giant. The station's lights flickered weakly, and debris floated in chaotic clouds around it. Something had attacked this place, and recently. 3 Velthic ships approaching, Jiwon announced. "They're powering weapons." A harsh voice crackled over the communication system. Minji's translator worked quickly, converting the alien speech into words Hyunwoo could understand. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Velthic territory during a crisis situation. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." Hyunwoo took a deep breath. This was it. The moment humanity announced its return. "This is Commander Hyunwoo of the human vessel Eternal Dawn. We received your distress calls. We've come to help." Long seconds of silence followed. Then the Velthic captain appeared on the view screen. He looked like a fusion of reptile and insect, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he processed what he'd just heard. "Human?" The word came out like a curse. "Impossible. Humans disappeared centuries ago. You're either liars or ghosts." "We're very much alive," Hyunwoo said calmly, "and we know what's happening to your stars. We want to assist." The Velthic captain, who identified himself as Thornax, made a sound that the translator interpreted as bitter laughter. Assist? Humans were barely capable of leaving their own planet when they vanished. What could primitive scavengers possibly do against the Void Drinkers? Void Drinkers? Minji leaned forward. "Is that what's attacking you?" Thornax's expression shifted to something like fear. "Ancient parasites from the space between galaxies. They feed on stellar energy, draining entire suns to reproduce. They came once before, millions of years ago. The old civilizations barely survived." Hyunwoo felt cold understanding wash over him. This wasn't just a crisis. This was an extinction-level threat to every living being in the galaxy. "Then you need all the help you can get," he said firmly. "We don't need help from humans," Thornax snapped. "Your species," the sensor alarm screamed. Every screen on the bridge flashed red as something massive registered on their instruments. The local star, a yellow dwarf that had burned steadily for billions of years, was changing. Its light was fading, dimming like someone had placed a filter over it. "What's happening?" Thornax's voice had lost its arrogance, replaced by pure terror. Minji's hands flew across her console. "Something's wrapping around the star. Energy readings are off the scale. It's draining the fusion reactions." Through the view screen, they could see it now. A massive structure, organic and mechanical at the same time, was spreading across the star's surface like a diseased growth. Tendrils of dark matter extended from a central mass, each one siphoning energy from the dying sun. Void drinkers, Thornax whispered. They've found us. Smaller shapes detached from the main structure, moving with terrible purpose toward the planet. Each one was the size of a city, covered in what looked like living metal that pulsed with stolen starlight. All ships, retreat to defensive positions. Thornax was shouting orders to his patrol group. We can't fight them. We have to evacuate what population we can and run. Hyunwoo watched the Velthic ships begin their withdrawal. They were abandoning the planet below, leaving millions to die in the growing darkness. He understood their fear, but something in him refused to accept it. Jiwon, battle stations, he said quietly. Minji, send a message to Earth. Tell Admiral Daehyun the situation has changed. We're engaging. His crew stared at him. They all knew what this meant. One human ship against an enemy that ate stars. Sir, Jiwon said carefully. We're not equipped for this kind of fight. No, Hyunwoo agreed. But we're the only ones here who'll try. The Eternal Dawn turned toward the approaching Void Drinkers, its experimental weapon systems coming online for the first time in combat. Humanity had been silent for 300 years, hidden in the dark while they built and planned and prepared for threats they hoped would never come. The galaxy thought they were gone. The galaxy thought they were weak. The galaxy was about to learn the truth. As the first Void Drinker ship entered weapons range, Hyunwoo gave the order that would change everything. Fire. The first shot from the Eternal Dawn tore through space like a spear of pure light. The Void Drinker ship that took the hit shuddered, its dark metal skin cracking under the impact. Steam and strange fluids vented from the wound. The creature inside the machine screamed, a sound that registered across multiple dimensions and made every sensor on every ship nearby go haywire. On the Velthic command ship, Captain Thornax stared at his screens in disbelief. That's impossible, he muttered. Nothing short of a planetary defense cannon can hurt them. But the human ship wasn't done. It moved with grace that shouldn't be possible for something its size, sliding between two more Void Drinker vessels and firing again. Bright blue beams cut through the darkness, each shot placed with surgical precision at weak points in the enemy structure. Sora sat at the tactical station on the Eternal Dawn, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. She'd studied these things through long-range sensors for weeks, analyzing their construction, finding their vulnerabilities. Every shot she called out was calculated to cause maximum damage. Target the junction points where the organic meets the mechanical, she directed. That's where their regeneration is slowest. Another Void Drinker exploded, its central mass rupturing and spilling its contents into the void. The others began to change their approach, recognizing the human ship as a real threat. Hyunwoo gripped the arms of his command chair as the ship rocked under return fire. Shields holding? At 92%, Young-ho called from engineering. These things hit hard, but our dark matter barriers are absorbing most of it. Dark matter technology. It was humanity's greatest achievement during their isolation. While the galaxy used conventional energy shields, humans had learned to manipulate the fabric of space itself. The Void Drinker weapons, powerful as they were, couldn't penetrate something that existed partially outside normal space. 3 more Void Drinkers approaching from the star, Jiwon warned, and they're bigger than the others. Before Hyunwoo could respond, new contacts appeared on the sensors. Ships were decloaking all around the battlefield, dozens of them, appearing from nowhere like ghosts materializing from smoke. They were human ships. Thornax's communication channel crackled to life with shock and confusion. Where did they come from? We detected nothing. Minji allowed herself a small smile. Stealth technology. We've been watching the galaxy for a long time, Captain. You just never saw us. The ghost ships were smaller than the Eternal Dawn, fast attack vessels designed for hit-and-run combat. They swarmed the Void Drinkers like insects attacking much larger predators, their weapons precise and deadly. All human vessels. This is Commander Hyunwoo. Coordinate fire on my mark. Let's show them how we fight. The response came from a dozen captains at once, their voices confident and ready. These crews had trained their entire lives for threats just like this. While the galaxy had grown complacent during the long peace, humanity had never stopped preparing. Sora transmitted tactical data to every human ship, linking them into a combat network. They moved as one organism, covering each other's weaknesses, setting up crossfires that caught the Void Drinkers from multiple angles. Velthic ships are trying to re-engage, Jiwon reported. Thornax is bringing his patrol back. Hyunwoo opened a channel. Captain Thornax, link your targeting systems to ours. We'll guide your shots. I don't take orders from humans, Thornax started, but his protest died as he watched another Void Drinker fall to the coordinated human assault. Pride warred with survival instinct. Survival 1. Transmitting our systems data now. Sora worked quickly, integrating the Velthic weapons into her tactical network. Their plasma cannons are outdated but powerful. If we can get them into optimal firing positions, they'll do real damage. Then let's get them there, Hyunwoo said. Human ships, Formation Delta. We're going to create firing lanes for our new friends. The human vessels shifted, their movements perfectly synchronized. They boxed in the largest Void Drinker, forcing it into a specific position. Thornax, seeing the opportunity, ordered his ships to fire everything they had. The combined assault was devastating. The Void Drinker's armor, already weakened by human weapons, couldn't withstand the plasma barrage. It died in a flash of light that briefly illuminated the darkening star behind it. By the void, Thornax breathed. I've never seen combat doctrine like this. We call it cooperative warfare, Sora explained as she adjusted the formation for the next engagement. Every ship supports every other ship. No glory-seeking, no individual heroics, just efficient killing. Young-Ho's voice cut through the celebration. Commander, we have a problem. The main structure on the star is accelerating its drain. At this rate, the sun will be completely dead in 3 hours. Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. They were winning the ship battle, but if they couldn't stop the main Void Drinker mass from consuming the star, everyone on the planet below would freeze to death. Minji was already working on the problem. Her science station filled with data about the star's deteriorating condition. The main structure is connected to all the smaller ships through some kind of energy network. They're sharing the power they drain. Can we sever the connection? Hyunwoo asked. Maybe, but we'd need to get close. Really close. Young-Ho spoke up from engineering. I have an idea, but you're going to think I'm crazy. The Velthic plasma weapons run on a different energy frequency than ours. If I could modify them with our power cores, I could boost their output significantly. How significantly? 5 times their normal strength. Maybe more. Thornax's voice came through uncertain. That could destroy our ships. Our systems aren't designed for that kind of power. Then we'll reinforce them. Young-Ho said simply, give me access to your engineering teams in 30 minutes. I can make it work. It was insane. Jury-rigging alien technology with human components in the middle of a battle. But conventional approaches weren't going to save that star or the billions of people depending on it. Do it, Hyunwoo ordered. Thornax, send over your engineering specifications. We're going to upgrade your weapons. You're all insane, the Velthic captain said, but he transmitted the data anyway. While Young-Ho worked his miracles in engineering, the human ships kept the Void Drinkers away from the Velthic vessels. More enemies were arriving, drawn by the battle, sensing the dying star nearby. How many of these things are there? Jiwon asked, watching new contacts appear on her screens. Too many, Hyunwoo admitted. We can't fight them all. We need to cut off their source. Minji looked up from her science station, her face pale. I've analyzed the main structure. It's not just feeding. It's preparing to birth more of them. If we don't stop it soon, dozens of new Void Drinkers will spawn from the star's corpse. The implications were horrifying. This system would become a breeding ground, launching new parasites to consume other suns, spreading like a disease across the galaxy. Young-Ho, how's that upgrade coming? Hyunwoo asked. Installing the last components now. This is either going to work beautifully or explode spectacularly. Let's hope for beautiful. Thornax, prepare your ships for maximum power assault on that main structure. Commander Hyunwoo, Thornax said, and for the first time his voice carried respect instead of contempt. Why are you doing this? This isn't your system. These aren't your people. Hyunwoo thought about Earth, about the 300 years of isolation, about the civil war that nearly destroyed humanity. They'd been broken once, had turned inward, and almost lost themselves in the darkness. Because someone has to, he said simply. And we're here. Young-Ho's triumphant shout echoed through the ship. Modifications complete. Velthic ships now have 5 times their normal firepower. All ships, Hyunwoo commanded, form up on the Eternal Dawn. We're going straight into the heart of that thing. The combined human and Velthic fleet turned toward the dying star, toward the monstrous structure that was killing it. The Void Drinkers moved to intercept, but they were too slow. Humanity had returned to the stars, and they were done hiding. The station called Axiom Prime floated in neutral space, belonging to no species and serving all of them equally. Its massive ring structure housed the Galactic Council chambers, where representatives from across known space gathered to debate policy and settle disputes without bloodshed. Today, the chamber was more crowded than it had been in centuries. Ambassador Sun-Hee walked through the corridors with her head held high, feeling the stares of countless alien species. Some looked curious, others hostile, many simply confused. Humans were supposed to be gone, vanished into history, yet here she stood very much alive and demanding to be heard. Hanul walked 3 steps behind her, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. He'd served in Earth's black operations during the Civil War, and knew how quickly political gatherings could turn violent. His hand never strayed far from the concealed weapon at his side. "They're afraid of you," he murmured quietly. "That's good." Sun-Hee didn't respond, but she knew he was right. Fear could be useful, but it could also be dangerous. The key was knowing which direction it would push people. The council chamber doors opened, revealing the vast circular room within. Representatives sat in tiered seating arranged around a central platform. Sun-Hee recognized several species from the historical records: the towering Osarians with their crystalline bodies, the fluid Thelians who shifted colors with their moods, and in the place of highest honor, the Kryn Collective's delegation. Councillor Vexthar sat at the center of the Kryn section, his face unreadable. The Kryn looked almost human, which had caused problems in the past. They'd viewed humanity as primitive cousins, lesser beings who had no right to the stars. A neutral mediator called the session to order. The Galactic Council recognizes Ambassador Sun-Hee of Earth. "You have requested emergency session to address 2 matters. Please proceed." Sun-Hee stepped onto the central platform, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Thank you. 5 days ago, human forces engaged an enemy called the Void Drinkers in Velthic territory. Working alongside Captain Thornax's patrol group, we destroyed the infestation and saved the planet Praxis 9 and its 4 billion inhabitants." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. The Velthic representative stood, his chitinous body gleaming under the chamber lights. "The human ambassador speaks the truth," he confirmed. "Without their intervention, our colony would have died in the cold. Humanity demonstrated both technological superiority and willingness to risk themselves for beings they'd never met." Vexithar made a dismissive gesture. "A single incident proves nothing. The Void Drinkers are barely a threat. They appear occasionally on the rim worlds but have never penetrated core space." "That's because you've never faced what's coming," Sun-Hee said calmly. She activated a holographic display, showing the pattern of star deaths across the outer territories. "In the last month, 11 stars have gone dark. The Void Drinkers aren't random raiders anymore. They're organized following a specific pattern, and that pattern leads directly toward the galactic core." The chamber fell silent as delegates studied the projection. The pattern was undeniable, a slow creeping advance toward the most densely populated regions of known space. Minji's voice came through Sun-Hee's earpiece, transmitted from the human ships waiting outside Axiom Prime. "New data coming in. Make sure they see this." Sun-Hee updated the hologram with fresh sensor readings. "If the Void Drinkers reach the supermassive black hole at the galaxy's center, the energy available there will allow them to reproduce at exponential rates. Within a year, every star in the galaxy could be under attack." An Osarian delegate spoke, its crystalline voice ringing like bells. "Why should we believe human predictions?" "You've been absent for 3 centuries. You know nothing of current galactic affairs." "We know more than you think," Sun-Hee replied. "We've been watching, learning. While you enjoyed peace, we prepared for the worst." Admiral Daehyun's image appeared in the hologram, transmitted from orbit above Axiom Prime. "And now that worst has arrived. Humanity offers a full military alliance. Our technology, our tactics, our ships. In exchange, we ask for recognition as a galactic power and access to trade routes." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species saw the logic, others rejected it outright. Vexthar's voice cut through the noise. "This is clearly a human trick," he declared. "They've engineered this crisis to force their way back into galactic politics. The Void Drinkers are likely a human weapon designed to make you all dependent on Earth's protection." Sun-Hee felt anger flash through her, but she kept her voice level. "That's an absurd accusation with no evidence. Isn't it convenient that humans appear just when a new threat emerges? That they have perfect weapons to fight this enemy? Vexthar smiled coldly. The Kryn Collective will not be manipulated. We reject this alliance and encourage other species to do the same. Several delegations nodded in agreement. Humanity's long absence had created deep suspicion, and Vexthar was exploiting it masterfully. Then the alarms began to sound. Sensor data flooded into the chamber's displays. 3 more systems had just gone dark, their stars dying in rapid succession. One of them was a Kryn industrial world called Tython, home to over 8 billion people. Vexthar's face went pale as he read the reports. This is a mistake. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. They're not, Sun-Hee said quietly. The Void Drinkers don't care about your politics or your pride. They only care about feeding. The mediator struggled to restore order as the chamber descended into chaos. Delegates shouted questions and demands, some calling for immediate action, others still resisting any alliance with humanity. Hanul touched Sun-Hee's arm, his expression urgent. We need to leave now. What's wrong? My team just intercepted communication between extremist groups. There's a plan to assassinate you during the session. They believe killing you will force humanity to withdraw and handle the crisis alone. Sun-Hee wanted to stay, to continue arguing for cooperation, but Hanul's instincts had kept them alive through the Civil War. She trusted them now. They moved toward the exit, but Vexthar blocked their path. Leaving so soon, Ambassador? Afraid to face questions about your convenient crisis? Get out of my way, Sun-Hee said coldly. People are dying and you're playing political games. The Kryn will handle our own problems, Vexthar said. We don't need human charity. Admiral Daehyun's voice came through Sun-Hee's communicator, loud enough for Vexthar to hear. Ambassador, we're receiving desperate calls from Tython. The Void Drinkers have arrived in force. The Kryn defense fleet is being massacred. Vexthar's confidence cracked. That's impossible. We have the strongest military in the galaxy. Not against this, Daehyun said. Counselor, your people are begging for help from anyone who will listen. Swallow your pride before it kills them all. Vexthar stood frozen, torn between his beliefs about Kryn superiority and the reality of what was happening to his homeworld. Sun-Hee made the decision for him. Admiral, take the fleet to Tython. Full combat deployment. Ambassador, the Council hasn't authorized— I don't care about authorization, Sun-Hee interrupted. We're not going to let billions die while politicians argue. Move now. Daehyun paused for only a second. Understood. All ships prepare for combat jump. The holographic display updated, showing the human fleet breaking orbit and forming up for faster-than-light travel. Hundreds of ships, more than most species had realized humanity possessed, all moving to defend a world that had just rejected their help. Vexthar stared at the display in disbelief. You're going anyway? Even though we refused you? Sun-Hee met his eyes. That's what it means to be human. We don't help people because they deserve it. We help them because they need it. She pushed past him, leaving the council chamber behind. Hanul stayed close as they hurried through the corridors back to their shuttle. This could start a war with the Kryn, Hanul warned, entering their territory without permission. I know, Sun-Hee said, but I've seen war before. I've lived through it, and I'll take that risk over watching billions die because we were too afraid to act. Their shuttle launched from Axiom Prime, racing to catch up with the fleet. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its arguments, still unable to agree on a course of action. But humanity had already decided. They were going into the dark once more, and this time, they weren't coming back without everyone who could be saved. The Kryn homeworld of Tython burned, not with fire. There was no oxygen in space for flames. Instead, it burned with the cold light of dying orbital stations, with the energy weapons of a desperate defense, with the screams of billions who watched their star grow darker by the hour. Admiral Daehyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Valiant Heart, watching the carnage unfold on his displays. The Kryn defense fleet, 300 ships strong and proud, was being systematically destroyed. The Void Drinkers had brought their largest force yet, wave after wave of biomechanical monsters that fed on the defenders' deaths. Estimated time until we can engage? He asked. 2 minutes, his navigation officer reported. The fleet is ready. Daehyun opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Daehyun. What we're about to do is unauthorized by galactic law. We're entering Kryn space without permission to fight an enemy that outguns us significantly. Some of you will die today, maybe all of us. He paused, letting that sink in. But there are 8 billion people down there who are about to freeze to death in the dark. They didn't ask for this. They don't deserve it. And we're the only ones who can stop it. So we're going in, and we're bringing every single soul we can back out. Humanity stands with those who need us even if they don't want us. All ships prepare for combat deployment. The response came from hundreds of captains at once, ready to engage. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly into the middle of the battlefield. Immediately, they deployed what they called the Gauntlet, a formation where the larger ships formed a protective corridor while smaller, faster vessels evacuated civilians from the doomed orbital stations. Commander Hyunwoo was already on the surface of Tython with a special operations team. They'd landed near a research facility that was still broadcasting a distress signal, where Kryn scientists were trapped by the advancing chaos. Buildings ahead, one of his team members reported. But there's debris blocking the main entrance. Then we make a new entrance, Hyunwoo said. They planted charges on the wall, blowing a hole large enough to enter. Inside, they found 37 Kryn scientists huddled in a laboratory, some injured, all terrified. A Kryn woman approached him cautiously. "You're human. Why are you here? We rejected your alliance." "Doesn't matter," Hyunwoo said simply. "Can you walk?" "Some of us are injured. We'll carry them. Let's move." His team began organizing the evacuation while Hyunwoo checked his communication with the fleet above. The news wasn't good. In orbit, Dr. Minji worked frantically at her science station. She'd been studying the Void Drinker coordination patterns, looking for any weakness they could exploit. These creatures moved with too much precision for individual intelligence. Something was directing them. "Admiral," she called out, "I've found it. They're using quantum entanglement to communicate. There's a central ship larger than the others coordinating the entire swarm." Daehyun pulled up the sensor data. The Queen ship was massive, 3 times the size of his flagship, positioned near the dying star where it could draw maximum power. "If we destroy that ship, what happens to the others?" "Their coordination should collapse," Minji said. "They'll still be dangerous, but they won't fight as a unified force." Ji-won, who'd been transferred to the Valiant Heart for the battle, spoke up from her navigation station. "Sir, I can plot a course through the Void Drinker formation. It'll be tight, but we can reach the Queen ship. How many ships can make it through? Maybe a dozen of our fastest. It'll mean leaving the defensive formation." Daehyun looked at the tactical display. Leaving the formation meant the civilian evacuation would be more vulnerable. But if they could take down the Queen ship, they might end this battle before everyone died trying. "Do it," he ordered. "Select our 12 fastest strike ships. We're going straight down that thing's throat." The Eternal Dawn was one of the ships selected. Hyunwoo had just gotten his evacuees back to his ship when the orders came through. "Commander, we need you in the strike group." Daehyun's voice came through clearly. "Can you make it?" Hyunwoo looked at the Kryn scientists his team had rescued. They stared at him with new understanding in their eyes. These humans had risked everything to save them. "We'll be there," he promised. The strike group formed up. 13 ships, including the flagship. They accelerated toward the Queen ship, weaving through a nightmare of enemy vessels and weapons fire. Ships died on the way. The human cruiser Indomitable took a direct hit that ruptured its reactor core. Instead of trying to save themselves, the crew steered directly into the thickest Void Drinker formation and detonated. The explosion consumed dozens of enemy ships, creating a gap in their lines. "The Indomitable just opened our path," Ji-won reported, her voice tight with emotion. "They sacrificed themselves." "Then we don't waste it," Daehyun said grimly. "All ships through the gap. Maximum speed." They burst through the enemy formation, and suddenly the Queen ship filled their view screens. It was hideous and beautiful at the same time, a fusion of living tissue and dark metal that pulsed with stolen starlight. Tendrils extended from its body, connecting to smaller Void Drinkers and to the dying star beyond. "Target those tendrils," Sora ordered from Tactical. "If we can sever its connection to the star, it'll lose its power source." The strike group opened fire with everything they had. Human weapons designed specifically to counter Void Drinker technology tore into the Queen ship's defenses. The tendrils began to burn and break, each one severed, sending shockwaves through the enemy network. The Queen ship fought back. Its weapons were unlike anything the smaller Void Drinkers carried, beams of energy that could cut through ships like paper. 2 more human vessels died in the first exchange, but they kept firing. Young-Ho was pushing the Eternal Dawn's engines beyond their safety limits, keeping them in the fight even as systems began to fail. "Commander, I can give you one more full power shot, but it'll overload the main weapon. We'll be defenseless after." Yunwoo didn't hesitate. "Line up the shot. Make it count." The Eternal Dawn positioned itself directly in front of the Queen ship's central mass, every remaining ounce of power channeled into one final attack. Fire! The beam punched through the Queen ship's core, and for a moment everything seemed to freeze. Then the massive creature began to rupture from the inside, its stolen energy running wild through systems never meant to contain such power. "All ships, get clear," Daehyun shouted. The Queen ship exploded with the force of a small star-going supernova. The shockwave caught several human vessels, including the Valiant Heart, sending them tumbling through space. Minji watched her screens as the explosion faded. The surviving Void Drinkers were scattering, their coordination completely broken. Without the Queen ship to direct them, they were just individual predators, dangerous but no longer an organized threat. "The star," she breathed. "Look at the star." With the main Void Drinker mass destroyed, the tendrils draining the sun had died. Slowly, fighting against the damage already done, the star began to reignite. Its light returned, weak but growing stronger. On the planet below, people watched their sun return from the darkness and wept with relief. Vexthar had been monitoring the battle from his command ship in a safe orbit. He'd watched humans die protecting his world. He'd seen them sacrifice their own lives to save Kryn civilians they'd never met. His communication officer spoke quietly. "Sir, one of the human fighters is in distress. It's venting atmosphere and drifting toward re-entry." Vexthar made a decision that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. Intercept that fighter. Bring the pilot aboard. They caught the damaged ship just before it would have burned up in Tython's atmosphere. The pilot was barely conscious when they pulled her from the cockpit. Her flight suit scorched and her breathing labored. Vexithar himself helped carry her to their medical bay. As Kryn doctors worked to save her life, he watched through the viewport as more human ships moved through the debris field, searching for survivors. They searched for Kryn survivors as desperately as they searched for their own. Daehyun's battered flagship managed to restore communication systems. "Counselor Vexthar, this is Admiral Daehyun. We're beginning final evacuation of damaged stations. Request permission to operate in Kryn space." Vexthar closed his eyes. His pride had nearly doomed his entire world. These humans had saved billions of his people while he'd accused them of conspiracy. "Permission granted, Admiral," he said quietly. "And thank you." The human fleet had lost 40% of its ships. Thousands of humans had died to save a species that had rejected them just hours before. But Tython still lived, and the galaxy would never forget what humanity had done this day. 3 weeks after the Battle of Tython, the Void Drinkers returned. Not to one system, but to dozens simultaneously. They emerged from the darkness between stars with a coordination that made the previous attacks look like minor raids. The Queen ship at Tython hadn't been their only leader. It had been one of many. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the repaired bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the galactic map light up with distress signals. Red markers appeared across every major sector. Human, Kryn, Velthic, Osarian, all of them under attack at once. "They're not trying to take territory," Minji said, analyzing the pattern. "They're making a straight run for the galactic core. Everything else is just a distraction." Admiral Daehyun's face appeared on the view screen, looking older than he had a month ago. "All human fleets are engaging, but we're spread too thin. The Velthic and Osarian forces have joined us, but the Kryn fleet is still recovering from Tython. We can't stop them all." "Then we don't stop them all," Hyunwoo said. "We stop the ones that matter. How many are heading for the core?" Jiwon pulled up the data. 17 Queen ships, each surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels. If even one reaches the supermassive black hole, it'll be able to spawn enough new Void Drinkers to consume every star in the galaxy. 17 Queen ships. Humanity had barely survived fighting one. Dr. Minji had been working on something in her laboratory for days, barely sleeping, pushing herself to find an answer to this impossible problem. Now she looked up with exhaustion and determination in her eyes. "I think I found a way," she said quietly. "But you're all going to hate it." She brought up her research on the main screen. "The Void Drinkers use quantum entanglement for coordination. But entanglement works both ways. If we can tap into their network, we can send something back through it. Send what? Hyunwoo asked. A weapon we developed during the isolation. We called it the Dawn Protocol. It converts dark matter into pure energy at a quantum level. The chain reaction should theoretically destroy anything connected to the initial detonation point through quantum entanglement. Admiral Daehyun understood immediately. You want to use their own communication network against them? Destroy one, destroy them all. Exactly. But there's a problem. Minji's hands shook slightly as she continued. The weapon requires conscious guidance. Dark matter exists partially outside normal space-time, and automated systems can't navigate those dimensions. Someone has to merge with the Dawn Protocol, guide it through the quantum network. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what she wasn't saying. It's a one-way trip, Young-ho said from engineering. He'd been listening to the briefing, and his voice was steady despite what he was suggesting. Whoever guides it won't be coming back. No, Hyunwoo said immediately. We'll find another way. There isn't another way, Minji said softly. I've run every simulation. Without conscious guidance, the protocol might destroy one queen ship, maybe two, but it won't cascade through the entire network. We need someone to push it all the way through. Young-ho left his station and walked onto the bridge. I'll do it. Absolutely not, Hyunwoo started. Listen to me, Commander. I'm the only one who understands the dark matter systems well enough. I designed half of them. If anyone can navigate those spaces, it's me. Young-ho smiled, and it was genuine. Besides, I'm not dying. I'm becoming something new. My consciousness will merge with the protocol, exist in those quantum spaces. In a way, I'll be everywhere at once. Admiral Daehyun's voice was heavy. Young-ho, you understand what you're volunteering for? I do, sir. And I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you this is happening. He looked at each of them in turn. 300 years ago, humanity almost destroyed itself. We came back from that darkness because people were willing to sacrifice everything to save what mattered. Well, right now, the entire galaxy matters. Every living thing in it. That's worth one engineer's life. Hyunwoo wanted to argue, to find some other solution, but he'd been a soldier long enough to recognize the look in Young-ho's eyes. This wasn't fear or resignation. It was purpose. How long do you need to prepare? The protocol is already ready. We just need to get it close enough to a queen ship to establish quantum connection. Young-ho glanced at Minji. 20 minutes to upload my consciousness into the weapons matrix. Then we go. The Eternal Dawn received new orders. Penetrate the Void Drinker formation heading for the galactic core. Get close enough for the Dawn protocol to work. And give Young-ho the time he needed. 12 other human ships volunteered to go with them. The remaining fleet would hold the line at other systems, buying time for this desperate gambit to work. Sora plotted their approach course, finding the path of least resistance through the enemy formation. It's going to be rough. We'll lose some ships before we get into position. Then we make every second count, Hyunwoo said. They jumped to the galactic core region, where space itself was distorted by the massive gravitational forces of the central black hole. The Void Drinkers were there, feeding on the intense radiation, growing stronger with every passing moment. The human strike force hit them like a spear through flesh. Ships died within the first minute of engagement, torn apart by enemy fire. The Eternal Dawn pushed through, protected by the sacrifices of vessels that threw themselves in the way of incoming attacks. In the weapon bay, Young-ho sat in the center of a sphere of pure light, the Dawn Protocol's containment field, cables connected to his skull, uploading his consciousness piece by piece into the weapons matrix. It should have hurt, this dissolution of self, but instead it felt like expanding, like becoming more than he'd ever been. Upload at 60%, Minji reported, watching his vital signs carefully. Young-ho, how do you feel? Strange. I can sense them now, the Void Drinkers. Their quantum network. It's beautiful and terrible at the same time. His voice sounded distant, like it was coming from somewhere far away. I can do this, Minji. I can reach all of them. The ship shook as a massive impact nearly breached their shields. Jiwon wrestled with the controls, keeping them on course despite the punishment they were taking. 80%, Minji said. Almost there. Another human ship exploded nearby, its sacrifice creating the opening they needed. The Eternal Dawn broke through the enemy formation, getting close enough to the nearest queen ship to establish contact. Upload complete, Minji whispered. Young-ho? I'm here. I'm everywhere. I can see the whole network now, every connection, every node. His voice came through the speakers, filled with wonder. There are so many of them, but I can reach them all. Activate the protocol, Admiral Daehyun ordered, his voice breaking slightly. Light began to build in the weapon bay, bright enough to be seen through the hull. Young-Ho's consciousness merged with the Dawn protocol, reached out through the quantum network that connected every void drinker across the galaxy. Hyun-Woo opened a final communication channel. Young-Ho, any last words? Yeah, tell everyone that humanity came back for them. Tell them we'll always come when they need us. And tell them... He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was filled with peace. Tell them the Dawn is coming. The Dawn protocol detonated. It wasn't an explosion in the traditional sense. Instead, it was a wave of pure energy that traveled through dimensions most beings couldn't perceive. It raced through the quantum network, jumping from void drinker to void drinker, instantaneously across light years of space. On 100 different battlefields, void drinkers suddenly stopped moving. Their biomechanical bodies began to glow from within, bright enough to hurt looking at them. Then simultaneously across the entire galaxy, they simply came apart, dissolving into light and particles. The stars they'd been draining began to recover. Systems went from dying to saved in the span of heartbeats. In the core region, the Eternal Dawn watched as 17 queen ships died at once, their massive forms breaking apart like ice under the sun. The light from their destruction was visible across half the galaxy. On Earth, people watched their screens in silence as the reports came in. Every void drinker gone. Every threatened system saved. Billions of lives preserved because one engineer had been willing to become something more than human to protect them. Ambassador Sun-hee received the news on Axiom Prime, where the Galactic Council had finally assembled again. Fexthar approached her, his usual arrogance completely gone. Your engineer, Young-Ho. He saved my world twice. First at Tython, now this. The Kryn counselor's voice was thick with emotion. The Kryn Collective wishes to formally apologize for our treatment of humanity. We were wrong about you. Other delegates came forward with similar statements. The Velthic offered military alliance. The Osarians proposed trade agreements. Species that had ignored Earth for 3 centuries now competed to establish relations. Sun-hee listened to them all, then spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. Humanity doesn't want your apologies or your guilt. We want partnership, real partnership, where all species work together to prevent threats like this from ever happening again. We came back not because we were ready, but because we heard you screaming in the dark, and we will never abandon you again. The Council voted unanimously to grant humanity a permanent seat among them. 6 months later, a memorial station was constructed in the space where the Dawn Protocol had activated. They called it Young-Ho's Light.